All right, let's jump right in. What if I told you that gravity doesn't actually pull you down? Today, we're going to explore a pretty wild thought experiment, a model of the universe that turns our whole understanding of reality on its head. So let's just start with the question that gets right to the heart of this whole thing. What if gravity isn't some invisible force pulling you down? What if instead the very ground beneath your feet is constantly expanding up to meet you? Yeah, I know it sounds completely out there, but just stick with me on this. To even start to wrap our heads around that idea, we first have to tackle the theory's main concept. We have to completely rethink what cosmic expansion even is. You know, even the author of this theory admits, when I first thought of this, it seemed unrealistic and illogical. But they say, if you think about it deeply, you just have to shift your perception. So let's do that. Let's try to look at the universe from this totally new angle and just see where it takes us. Okay, so here's the absolute foundation of this idea, the principle of collective expansion. Now, in this model, it's not just the space between galaxies that's expanding. Oh no, it is everything. Every single atom. The atoms in your body and the Earth, across the entire universe, they are all constantly getting bigger. The difference here is, well, it's fundamental. In the standard model that we all know, space expands, but the stuff inside it, stars, planets, us, we all stay the same size. But in this model, which is called the ultimate structure of creation theory, or USCT, everything expands, both the space and all the matter inside of it.
Now, if you can accept that idea that everything is expanding, it has some pretty mind-bending consequences for how we think about motion and even time itself.
So to get this, the theory kind of splits motion into two types. First, you've got active motion. That's you walking around, moving up, down, left, right in our normal 3D space. But at the exact same time, everything in the universe is sharing a passive motion, this collective shared movement through an unseen fourth dimension.
And here is the kicker. That passive motion through the fourth dimension, according to this theory, that's what we experience as the flow of time. Time isn't some universal clock ticking away. It's a dimension of motion, and we are all traveling through it together, all the time.
So how does this explain something real, like time dilation? The fact that time slows down for astronauts traveling near the speed of light. Well, in this model, it's actually a direct trade-off. As a spaceship cranks up its active motion through space, it's forced to slow down its passive motion through that fourth dimension. And since that fourth dimensional motion is time, from our perspective, their time slows down. Simple as that. Okay, if you're still with me, we're about to get to the most radical claim of this entire theory. The idea that gravity, as a fundamental force, it doesn't even exist. It's just an illusion. Right, so the central claim is this. Gravity is not a force pulling things together. And it's not a curvature of space-time like Einstein said. Instead, it is simply an effect caused by different objects having different rates of that collective expansion we talked about. To see how this works, just picture two objects. Object A is pretty small. Let's say it's made of 100 atoms. And then you have object B, which is way more massive. It's made of 1,000 atoms.
The logic here is surprisingly simple, but it's profound. If every single atom is expanding, well, then an object with more atoms is going to have a greater collective rate of expansion. It's simple math. More stuff means more outward push.
And boom, here's the big reveal. The more massive object, object B, expands faster than the less massive one. This means it's closing the gap between them more quickly. What we feel as the pull of gravity is actually the push of the more massive object expanding outwards faster than everything else. The Earth isn't pulling you down, it's expanding up to meet you faster than you're expanding away from it. So if literally everything is expanding and moving, that kind of begs a pretty huge question, doesn't it? Is anything in this universe truly standing still? Well, this theory has a pretty startling answer. In this picture of the universe, every single atom, every planet, every galaxy is in constant dynamic motion. Everything is expanding. Everything is drifting through that fourth dimension we call time. Everything moves, except for one thing.
And that one thing is light. This theory proposes that light is the only thing in the entire universe that is truly, absolutely, 100% stationary. It is the one fixed point in a cosmos of constant change.
This gives light some really unique properties. See, it doesn't actually move through space. Space itself moves around it. It doesn't expand like matter does. And since it has zero passive motion through that fourth dimension, for light, time literally does not exist. No motion means no time. And if there's no time, there's no mass. It's just pure, timeless existence.
So what about light bending near a star? Well, the theory says it's not a gravitational pull, it's a push. The space on the side of the photon opposite the star is expanding normally, and it just pushes the photon into the dent in space created by the star's much faster expansion. It's basically an optical illusion created by an expanding universe.
And this all brings us back to this really powerful idea from the source, which is summed up perfectly right here. The relative difference in motion between two or more objects is time itself. We have to create it. Just think about that for a second. Time isn't some river we're all just floating down. It's something that only even exists when things move relative to each other.
And so, this entire thought experiment leaves us with one last, big question to chew on. If gravity is just an illusion of expansion, and time is nothing more than an effect of relative motion, then what does that say about the reality we think we perceive every single day?